All right. What's going on? So I hope you're having a good week this week, and I hope you had a great Thanksgiving if you're listening to this close to Thanksgiving. And this week, there are a lot of things I've been digging into, and I'm going to share them with you. I want to help you to improve your hockey game, as that's always the goal. And some of the things we talked about this week are stories, emotions, understanding what it means to handicap yourself when it comes to the mental game and your performance, understanding how to handle discomfort, and we'll dig into a few other topics as well. So let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the power of stories in training. And so what we want to think about is that when it comes to how we look at learning, fundamentally stories are one of the most effective ways to learn things. And so stories kind of act a little bit like a mental flight simulator because they prepare us to respond to challenges more effectively. And an example from the book Made to Stick that I really liked is this concept of firefighters between their whatever calls they're on, they'll be constantly telling each other stories of what happened in previous fires, what happened in previous emergency situations. And what it does is it gives people an ability to kind of simulate what just happened or what these people have been through. And if you think about how humans have always communicated, they're always able to tell a story of something that happened. And what we do with the story is we visualize it, we create it in our mind through the effectiveness of how they communicate that to us. And so the benefits of storytelling for you is that you want to start to think about how you visualize and also how you listen to people's stories. So things that players have done in the past, listen to how people handle different scouting situations, how they handle different off-ice situations. You want to start to think about when you listen to a story, you want to listen to it so that you can improve your decision-making when that event occurs or something similar occurs. And this improves decision-making so you can make quicker decisions, so you can make more effective situations. And this is really what you're doing when you visualize. So this is kind of the connecting the dots here, is that when you visualize something, you are essentially creating a story in your mind of an event, and you're creating it, you're structuring it, and this is going to program you to buy into, okay, this is what my brain is going to tell me to do in this situation. Again, you're preparing yourself for an event before it occurs. So what you want to start to do is start to notice people who are really good at explaining things in a connected fashion, a story fashion. And what you'll notice is that these things are super, super helpful to help you understand how to make better decisions in the future. And so if you want to communicate better to teammates and get them motivated to be a better leader, if you want to be somebody who's able to explain to coaches, here's who I am and here's what I believe in, the ability to effectively tell stories, the ability to create mental movies and be able to take what people are telling you and or absorb that into your mind as well. It's so, so powerful. And so realize that everything we're doing is really creating these mental movies in our head, which then train us to make better decisions. And so it's going to really push you forward if you take this seriously and start to think about how you visualize, how you communicate to people, and how you listen to other people's stories, and how you're able to absorb the story, even if it's not a good one, but absorb it and create the lesson from the sequence of events that they went through and how they responded and what they learned from it. So it's the ability to really learn is what I want to get across here. It's so effective if you can learn how to absorb stories more effectively. And so something you can try, kind of a action step here, is write down different situations that you're going to face in hockey. And this is what I do with all my clients. Write down the negative things you might face, the positive things you might face, whatever the situation is. Think about what it would be like if you went through that event and how do you want to respond to it. Then think about how would your best ideal version of yourself respond to it. That will give you a roadmap to how you want to operate. So when you create those prompts and prompt yourself to walk through these situations and note down, okay, here's how I want to act, and then you simulate that in your mind, you're programming your mind to be prepared to respond how you want. You want to respond as your ideal self, so you tell that story, you script out the programming that you want to have in your mental software, and that's going to tell you what you're going to do in that event. It's going to give you the programming to make a more effective decision. And so that's stories, and that's how you can use stories to start to think about how to more effectively visualize and create mental movies. Now, the next piece I want to get into is emotional awareness on the ice. And so one of the things that most players struggle with is the ability to deal with emotions. Now, the key nuance here is I'm not talking about using emotions as I don't want you to go into a game or a practice, and when you're in the flow state, the goal is not to be analyzing yourself. The goal is never to overthink things and try to be very cerebral and think when you're playing. But just because you don't show an emotion, just because you're not sure what emotions you have in a game or in any event, doesn't mean you don't have them. And so I want you to think about is that there's kind of two components of emotions that really matter as a player. So you have the side of dealing with the emotion prior to a performance event, so prior to a game. You have that dealing with it, and this is the work I do with players typically. And then there's the when I have the emotion in the performance event and how do I handle it in that situation. And so the key is realizing that if you don't do the first step and deal with the emotion, then that emotion will build up and it's not going to be fully processed. And when it's not fully processed, at some point you will have a bigger out of control emotional response because there's something there. There's something that the emotion is trying to signal to you. There's something going on. And if you don't process it and deal with it effectively and figure out what is the story I'm telling myself about it, what are the negative things that are going on in my head, then when you do get to the performance event, you might have this buildup of emotions and thoughts and things that have just went completely undealt with. And then you blow up and you punch somebody in the face, you take a bad penalty, you crack under pressure, freak out, you scream at a teammate, scream at a coach. Any of these things can lead to you not being calm and composed and in control and confident in the most important situations. So that's why it's so important to think about, have I actually dealt with these emotions? Have I dealt with the thought patterns before I get into the performance event? Because if you don't, you may end up not performing the way you want because your emotions and a mental block gets in the way. So that's why you need to do that first. Then, even if you do that, there will be times when emotions do come up, when negative thought patterns come up. Well, what do you generally do to solve that? Now, there's a bunch of different techniques and tactics depending on what exactly a player is going through. But one of the most simple things you can do is identify and acknowledge that it's there. So say, okay, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm whatever the thing is. Think about, okay, what am I feeling? And then being able to channel that emotion into focus and intensity. And so if you feel angry, being able to take that and hold it and direct it into making a big hit, making a big play, blocking a shot, into staying calm and knowing that, okay, I'm getting sat right now. Okay, I'm going to take that emotion and I'm going to channel it and I'm going to wait. And the second that opportunity comes, I'm going to be like a lion hunting, for example, and I just explode and attack the situation. This is a mental frame, it can help you to start to use an emotion and channel it towards what you want to benefit from it. What you don't want to have happen is you're angry and then you get out of control and it explodes out and you can't actually direct it towards something. I like to think of it like a blue hot flame on a torch. And you take that blue hot flame and you direct it at something with intensity. That's the feeling I want you to channel, is take it, notice where the emotion is in your body, and start to direct it towards what you want to direct it towards. Then you become powerful. Instead of being at the whim or being controlled by your emotion, you control your emotion. And this is a really powerful feeling because once you start to learn how to do this, you realize there's not really anything that can come up for you that's going to stop you. Right? And so at the same time, there is a key nuance to the situation. And it's that you also don't have to take your emotions and your thoughts seriously. And so on one end, you can use these things because you're experiencing something physiologically. There is something going on in your body. But you can also take the more ACT, so ACT, or you can take the more DBT approach to this concept and think of it more from allowing the thought and the emotion to just drift by and allow them to be there, allow them to kind of move, but not getting attached to them, not getting hooked and pulled away into different experiences. What most players do, and what I have done and I still work on now, is being able to not be pulled by something. You might have a distracting thought, but does that thought just kind of drift by, or does it kind of take your attention with it? Do you have an emotion? Does that emotion simply exist, or does it take you and pull you and direct your life? This is the problem. The problem is not having emotions, it's not having thoughts. It's allowing them to hook you and pull your attention into different areas and pull you out of the present moment. So being mindful and having the skill of paying attention to what is going on in your head, that skill is the key to being able to effectively channel an emotion and also just let an emotion go. Because if you're sad and you're just feeling down, being able to realize, okay, I can just let that emotion be there, let it kind of drift, and then I bring my attention back to what is happening in this moment. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I touch? What do I smell? I think that's all the senses. And when you bring in those senses, now you gain control over what you do, because what you can only do in any game, in any important situation, focus on what inputs, what am I doing, what actions am I taking in this moment right now. This exact moment. The only thing you can control in your entire life is what you're doing at this moment as you listen to me. This is the place where power exists, is in this exact moment. But we get taught to think ahead. We get taught to think about and learn from the past. And those things are important when it comes to directing your actions, so giving you basically a target to move towards. And then the past is great to learn lessons and to program your software to more effectively take you to where you want to go. But fundamentally, all you can do is just focus on exactly the step you're on. It's the only real step. This moment, as you listen to this podcast, is the only real step you're on in your hockey journey. And it's very weird when you first hear that. But when you really accept this as a truth, it allows you to start to pay more attention to being mindful of what emotions and thoughts are going through you, because then you can use them and not be used by them. Now, I want to talk about a third thing that I've noticed with a lot of players that I work with and athletes that I see and that I study and that I talk to, is that a lot of players self-handicap. They put basically a limit on themselves. And what this means is that you intentionally decrease the likelihood of success to justify failure for yourself. An example of this: partying before a big game, skipping a practice, or maybe just procrastinating on your work that you want to do. And why do we do this? Why do we stop ourselves and limit ourselves and put ourselves in these really negative situations? Well, what it is that it's our ego trying to protect you. It says, if I fail, this is why. If I fail, here's my excuse. It's not my fault. It's because I didn't do everything I could. See, if I had worked harder, if I had done what everybody said I should do, then I would have been successful. But here's the truth. Your ego is lying to you. It's trying to get you to protect something that doesn't need to be protected. Because if you go all out and you do train as hard as you can and you do fail, well, the thing is that it's feedback. It's telling you weren't good enough to succeed in that moment. It doesn't mean you won't be successful in the future. And fundamentally, this comes from fear. It comes from avoiding. A lot of times we don't want to face the fact that we're not doing everything we can. A lot of times we don't want to face the fact that we're not as confident as we want to be. And a lot of times we struggle most with facing the fact that we don't know if we're going to succeed, because things are challenging, because things are not guaranteed. And our ego doesn't like when things aren't guaranteed. Your ego wants things to be in your control, and that is scary. But being scared is so important. It's okay to have fear. And going back to the concept of having emotions, being able to acknowledge, I'm nervous, I'm worried, I'm scared, and then being able to acknowledge the fact that that is okay. It's not the end of the world to feel those things. It's your ego trying to protect you. It's your ego trying to keep you safe, make sure you don't get hurt, make sure you don't socially get injured and people judge you, or you look bad, or you get embarrassed. So in order to overcome this, I want you to start thinking about what patterns in my life are self-sabotaging. What are the things that are my excuses when I don't succeed? Do I say it's my coaches? Do I say it's my teammates? Do I say it's my training? Do I say it's not having scouts in my current location? Is it because I didn't do that training session? It's because I've been slacking off. It's because I don't have nutrition. It's because I can't sleep. It's because I can't do this. Everything is because. You have to eventually face the fact that it's because of what you are doing. Because if you really want to succeed, you will do every single thing in your power to go and figure it out. You would be working with me and asking me questions and taking all the information you can. You would be going and trying to find the best skills coach that you can possibly talk to. You'd be messaging people. You'd be emailing people. You'd be driving places. You'd be going everywhere you can to learn. You would be doing everything you possibly could to succeed. Everything you're not doing to succeed is probably your ego trying to protect you. And I'm not telling you that you need to do so much and push yourself so hard that you shut down and that you go into burnout. That's not the point. I'm not saying that you need to burn yourself out. Being effective at doing everything you can might mean resting. It might mean spending time with friends or family. Those things are important in order to make sure that holistically you are getting the absolute most out of your work time. But if you're not doing everything you can in the work time, you're not maximizing all of your training systems, and you're sabotaging your career, then you need to face that. You need to take a step back and honestly assess, what am I doing to limit myself right now? And being able to take the blame finger and stop pointing it at anybody else and just point it back at you and say, I'm the one. I am the person. And then I get to do something different. That's the difference between blaming and then taking accountability and responsibility, is that you get to have power with what happens next. It might be scary because you will be the one who says, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do. But the key nuance here is you say the action was ineffective, not I am ineffective. And we're going to talk about this concept a little bit more with communication in a second. But fundamentally, you have to stop putting the blame to other people. You have to stop sabotaging yourself. You have to identify where you're doing this, where you're putting limits on yourself, and give yourself the opportunity. Because if not, you will be handicapped. You will be capped out at a certain point, and it's going to hurt your career in the long run. And I'm here to help you, to push you beyond what you think is possible for yourself. Because I know when I didn't do that, and I know the pain of just not giving it everything in those key opportunities. And there's a paper you can actually look into with this. It's a paper by Berglis and Jones. It was written in 1978, so it's a pretty old study. It's about self-handicapping is a defense mechanism to protecting self-esteem. So it's a really good one to look at. The next thing I want to talk about is the science of discomfort. This is something I've been really learning about in my life, and I think every athlete should think about this as much as they can. Short-term pain typically leads to long-term gain. Very simple, very cliche, but it's true. You want to start to be attracted to discomfort. You want to search and seek out things that are hard, because when you seek out something that is hard, it is going to pull you into a new version of yourself. But you have to be willing to be humble. You have to be willing to not take it personally. When you fail, when something is hard, you have to take that and learn from it and say, I'm going to adjust my behavior to get the result I want next time. You can't go into it expecting to be perfect. You have to go into it expecting it to be difficult and knowing that you can push through it, knowing that you will endure. And if you don't win the game, if you don't succeed on the current team, if you get cut, knowing that you will learn and you will move forward. That's fundamentally what I believe confidence is. Confidence is the ability to handle discomfort. It's about being able to know I can handle whatever comes my way, and I will find a way to be successful now, and I will get better and be successful later. I don't believe confidence is fundamentally about certainty. When people really are talking about confidence, there's this idea that we're really talking about, I know this is going to happen without any doubt. Well, the truth is, anybody who says that is either they have been convinced of something, right? They've been kind of brainwashed into believing something, or they just are so superior to someone else that they feel confident. But then confidence really just comes from preparation. Now, of course, whenever I talk about this, I'm always talking about you have to prepare, and then you have to have the mental ability to still perform and get into flow state believe in yourself. Those two things, they both have to exist. Like, that's how you actually create effective training. But if you prepare really hard, but the mental blocks are still there, you're not going to play well. And if you have the mental blocks removed, but you still struggle with your preparation and you're not as good as you could be in terms of your actual abilities, which fundamentally working on your mental ability, doing things like meditation, visualization, mental programming, learning self-talk, learning all these tools. These are tools that are going to give you mental ability in the preparation so you are able to perform in the moment. Preparation leads to the mental ability, the physical ability, leading to the hockey IQ ability and the mechanical ability. Everything is fundamentally preparation. But really the key nuance is just understanding that you need to be stepping into difficulty with confidence, knowing I'm going to go and do this thing regardless of the outcome. I'm going to get better, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to continue to push through. And I think confidence is having a strong sense of identity. It's a strong sense of knowing what you are moving towards, who you are, and being stable in that, being firm in that, and being able to adapt and learn and grow and willing to be flexible and wanting to expand your identity and who you are as a player. And there was a paper by Professor Duckworth, and it was about grit and perseverance are predictors of long-term success. And that's kind of where I'm basing a lot of this stuff off of. But fundamentally, you have to think, in the long run, if you're willing to do things other people won't do, then you're probably going to get things that other people won't get. Think of it as a road, and there's a road that's difficult to travel. It's hard, there's a lot of bumps, it's hard to get through, but there is gold at the end of this road, or there's gold throughout this road. Well, if you're willing to travel that road for longer periods of time, you're going to pick up more gold than people who don't go that far. And so the willingness to walk down the path and do the difficult stuff is going to separate you in the long run. So it's very important to acknowledge that for yourself, that that's the key. You can't just walk around thinking, I'm going to have everything easy, everything's going to come to me instantaneously. You have to be willing to go down roads other people won't go down. And yes, sometimes you may just have gifts. People may just fall into your life. Situations may just happen. But the more that I live, the more I realize that everything is about you going down the path. It's you choosing to put the pedal down and drive the car as far as you can go. And it's you who has to handle the stress and the difficulty that comes with it. You don't want to ask for an easy life. You want to ask for the strength to handle a hard one. That's the saying that always sticks with me, because you want to see what is possible for me. What can I do in my life? And so start to look at difficulty as an opportunity instead of a barrier. Look at things that are not fun. Look at things that are hard as things that other people will not do, and that's what you're going to do, and that's why you're going to be better. And so every time you do something difficult, it should build confidence. Every time you do something that was scary, it should build confidence. Of course, things that help you. So if you sign up for a program and somebody works with you, if you work with me and you say, man, I'm scared to go and spend money and get help and work on my mental game, well, the truth is that most people aren't willing to do that, even though they know they need to work on these skills. They know they need to build a proper preparation system. They know that these things are key, but they're self-sabotaging and they're not doing this stuff. And you being willing to do that, being willing to take a step into the unknown is what's going to allow you to get things other people won't get. It's the same thing with me running this business. A lot of people don't want to do it. A lot of people don't want to face the challenge and the difficulty of working a lot of really weird hours and helping players and being willing to make mistakes. And it's all things that are hard, but that's why I will succeed, because I'm willing to go into a place most people won't go, to face discomfort most people won't face. And so being willing to do that is going to separate you from other people. And so now, to switch gears again, I want to shift into the last concept I want to talk about, which is giving and receiving feedback. And so here's the key. When it comes to giving feedback, feedback should be specific and actionable, and you should avoid making it vague or personal. Let's make this very specific and actionable. So here's the framework. So let's say a player makes a mistake. They were out of position, and they're your line mate, and you want to help them to make a better decision in the future. Focus on the behavior. Don't attack the person. Think about what is it that they did, and then think about what is it that they could do differently. Get very crystal clear on that. Now what you want to do is start with reaffirming who the person is. So you essentially build them up, to then give them a piece of advice to help them build forward. Why this works is because when you affirm someone's identity, you stabilize who they are. They feel more confident. And then when you give feedback, it allows them to put it in the context of, this person believes in me. Now they're helping me. Now they're giving me advice. The mistake most players make, or most people make when they give feedback, is that they say something negative right away, and now that person is on the defense. Their ego has to protect them. And so maybe somebody will have the humility to handle that, but for a lot of people, they won't. A lot of people, when you go negative at them, it's going to hurt them in the long run because they're going to try to defend their stance. So if someone's out of position, you don't just say, man, you got to be better at defense. And we all have really crappy coaches who have done this to us in the past. Instead, you say, hey, man, you're really good at positioning typically in that spot, but you were in the wrong position there. Here's where you could be to get the puck more often. And then you attach it to an outcome. So then you can get a shot off in this position. Boom. Now you took something from, you could have just attacked them and said, hey, be better at being in position, and just a broad thing, to, you did this, here's what you could do. But again, you start it with, you are this person, you are this positive thing, reaffirm who they are. Then here's what happened, here's what you could do, here's the reason it can help you. Now you have gotten into their brain, and you should have a good chance of rewiring their software to make a better decision in the future. And really, this is what it means to be a good teammate. A good teammate looks at your game and says, hey, I want to help you. I know you're a great player. I know you can do X, Y, Z. They give you belief. They reaffirm who you are. Then they try to help you, and they give you honest advice on, here's what you did, here's what I think you could do, here's why, here's what it will lead to. Simple, easy, crystal clear, and it will help your teammate get better. And so when it comes to receiving feedback, one thing you want to start to look at is, go and ask players, first of all, what's one thing that I can improve? Ask your teammates, ask your coaches, ask fans, ask tons of people. And then use that feedback as affirmation of places that you can be better. You want to think of it from the perspective of, not everybody has the skill I just taught you there. Not everybody can give effective feedback. So if you want to give better feedback and you want to get better feedback, just go out to people and ask, and expect that they're going to hit you with the negative right away. But you've already built a strong identity. You already know who you are. You have that confidence. See, that's the key, is building confidence, having an identity, being clear on who you are, so that your ego doesn't have to come in. But you have to manage your ego, because true confidence doesn't come from your ego trying to fend off every potential fear and everybody saying negative things. Your ego hears something negative and says, ooh, can that help me? That is a good ego, essentially, right? Because now you're looking for things to build you, and you see anything that shows a weak link in the chain as help as opposed to hurt. And that is a way to start to reframe people's feedback for you. And so if you're a player and you feel like you are not mentally prepared, you feel like you're not sure if you're going to be able to handle pressure, not sure if you're going to be able to handle the next level difficulties, here's the thing. You're taking a huge risk by not actually building a true mental skill set, because at some point you will face difficulty. At some point you will face adversity, and you might choke under pressure. You might miss an opportunity, and then your confidence drops, and then you go into a slump. The question I have for you is, would you leave your skills training, or would you leave your cardio or your strength training to chance? Would you just go and throw some random things together on Google, or find one meditation, or find one YouTube video? Would you do the same thing that you're doing with the mental game? Would you do that same thing with the physical game, with skills? You probably wouldn't. What you would do is you would build a system, and I hope you have a system for all those areas. And if you don't have a mental system, then you should have it. Because look at McKinnon, look at McCarr, look at all the best players. They might not even talk about it. Austin Matthews just talked about having a mental coach that he works with. They all have somebody they can go to help them understand, to make adjustments, to improve their mental tools, because it is a piece of the game that matters. And so build your mental game. If you want to learn more about it, you can check out below. I'll have some links that you can click on. I have an opportunity where you can work with me in a more intense fashion. We have some group programs. We have some totally free training where you can get all the tools and basic understanding, and you can check all that stuff out. So it's all there for you. You can start to work on these skills. The skills are there for free if you need that stuff. And I hope that you take this stuff and just start taking action this week if you haven't started it. You can simply start by just meditating once a day, just for 5 minutes. Put a timer on, sit there, 5 minutes. Just start there. Then you can start to build into different visualization techniques. You can go and do all that stuff. But if you're really serious, just apply. It's not anything crazy to work together. We can find a package that works for you. I can help you and help you to really have the best possible career, start having fun with your career, not be stressed out all the time, handle challenges more effectively, and all the things we talk about. So have a great week. Go crush it, and I'll talk to you soon.